we are focusing on one marginalized population, which has been and will continue to be hard hurt by climate change and ecological disruption. Indigenous populations, which have evolved rich cultures over thousands of years, which are strongly intertwined spiritually and physically with the local ecology, and these sudden disruptions over the past several generations put their entire way of life at risk. This is our concept outline, which shows in the box in the middle. We are focusing on the effects of climate change on Indigenous people. We took that into three directions. The top branch elaborating on what the pain exactly is to the Indigenous people, what is the cultural stresses, branching out to the right, why climate change is occurring, physical and psychological factors that are contributing to the climate issue, and branching out to the bottom, what can be done to alleviate the problem, what changes can be made positively. On the positive note, our hypothesis, our proposal in this presentation is that social contagion theory, which explains that emotions, behaviors travel from people to people, should inform any media campaigns designed to raise awareness for the suffering of Indigenous people, for the effects of climate change on their way of life. The media should incorporate face-to-face interviews with the Indigenous people so the viewer can feel as though they are talking to the person and they can absorb empathetically the person's internal state, their emotions, and be strongly motivated to do something to a degree they would not had the media not had these face-to-face encounters. Now, Shimshon will, in the next slide, begin to explain psychological theories we are bringing to bear on this issue.
We often think that we join the groups that we join, whether it be a team, or whether it be even going to a job and joining with the people there. We often think we do that because it's something that matches our personality. And of course, that's true. But one of the things that social identity theory discusses is the opposite effect. The effect of how the more we get involved in something, the more we view ourselves a part of something, then the more we view ourselves as having to do with that. I identify myself as a person, as somebody who hangs out with this person, who interacts with that person, who does this group activity, and who has similar values to the group. This goes in terms of smaller things like a sports team. It can go to a person's job and the people there, and it goes on the large scale to the entire culture that a person's a part of, and everything that goes along with that, and everything that means. But as important as it could become, that enables it to then have the opposite effect. And when we lose a group, whether by choice or whether by force, it could be devastating, and it could feel like we're losing a part of ourselves. But that's what's happening with the Inuit people. They have an entire culture that is associated with the ice. They hunt on the ice, and they go out there, whether it be hunting walruses or polar bears or seals, all different sorts of things. And, imagine trying to get a 2,000-pound walrus out of the water. If it's on the ice, it's one thing. But if it's in the water, it's nearly impossible. And so this entire culture that they've developed around this, that it means that it isn't just a food source anymore, but it's a way of life. It's who they are. There are generations and skills and stories that have been passing down this. There are people who have their grandparents, and their grandparents had this idea of what's going to happen. They told this to their kid, and this is how you deal with a certain situation. Their kid passed down the skill to their kid, and now you have this person who grew up with this ideal and grew up with this experience, and has this image of passing it on to their own children. And as the ice melts, they may never get the chance, or may become irrelevant. We're dealing with a problem that's beyond them just losing a food source. They're at risk of losing a whole part of themselves, which can have devastating consequences. So we'll move on, just pass on to the next slide, where they'll discuss theories relating to exactly why this is happening and how did we get here.
Thank you, Shimshon. My name is Yossi Dubinsky, and I want to talk about how our next theory, namely the system justification theory, also plays a role in the climate change predicament of the Inuit tribe. John Joss proposed this theory, which suggests that individuals have a psychological motivation to defend and rationalize the status quo, even when it may not be in their best interest. The Inuit have a deep connection to their land and traditional ways of life, which are now under threat due to climate change. Melting ice, changing wildlife patterns, and unpredictable weather are just a few of the challenges that they face. System justification theory helps us understand why it can be challenging for the Inuit to garner attention and action regarding climate change. Many individuals are motivated to support existing societal structures, even when those structures contribute to environmental degradation. This can lead to apathy or resistance to acknowledging the Inuit's plight. Other barriers would include the fact that people, when confronted with the challenge of climate change, can be conflicted, which may lead to denial. Also, misconceptions about Indigenous peoples can minimize their experiences and contributions. Additionally, mainstream media narratives often overlook Indigenous voices, focusing instead on more sensationalized aspects of climate change. Despite these challenges, Inuit leaders and organizations are actively working to raise awareness. They employ storytelling, cultural knowledge, and scientific research to highlight their experiences with climate change. Advocacy through partnerships with environmental organizations is also crucial for amplifying their voices. To combat system justification, it's essential to change the narrative surrounding climate change. This would include recognizing the interconnectedness of environmental issues and Indigenous rights, promoting Inuit perspectives in climate discourse, and encouraging empathy and understanding in non-Indigenous communities. As individuals, we can play a role in supporting the Inuits' fight against climate change by learning about Indigenous issues and sharing that knowledge, and by supporting Indigenous-led initiatives by contributing to organizations working towards climate justice. System justification theory provides valuable insight into the challenges the Inuit face in raising awareness about climate change. By understanding these dynamics, we can work towards a more equitable approach to environmental advocacy that honors Indigenous experiences and knowledge. Thank you for your attention, and we will now move on to our next speaker, Betsy.
Social Contagion Theory, Elaine Hatfield, Richard Ramsden, and John T. Cacioppo. The theory describes how emotions, attitudes, and behaviors spread like viruses through groups of people. Often the people involved in the contagion-like attitude are unaware of the changes or attitudes taken. Individuals mimic emotions, actions, and behavior through observation of others. Decisions are made based on the attitude of the environment. It explains why groups of people experience simultaneously emotions like hysteria, social trends, and empathy when exposed to publicized world events like natural disasters. How does social contagion theory make a difference in the life of the Inuit? Through social media exposure, Sheena Nova, an Inuit native and public figure, advocates for her community. Through the use of storytelling and emotion contagion, Sheena Nova creates empathy, promoting awareness and the need for change in her community. Publicizing impactful stories can inspire collective support for change. Efren will now summarize and highlight the importance of our issue and the need for change.
Thank you, Betsy. In conclusion, we see the importance of this issue. Climate change not only negatively affects the world, it also has a unique impact on the peoples whose cultural identity is tied up with the ice. Although many people might not feel compelled to do anything about this, which can be explained by system justification theory, through the use of content which contains interviews with Indigenous people, an emotional connection will be given to the viewer, and they will be more likely to advocate. Thank you for watching.